we're going to go to you for Seattle and Dallas. Grubauer versus Ottinger, two great goaltenders. The Seattle Kraken, they upset the defending Stanley Cup champions. They're plus 150. Dallas minus 180. Total 5.5. And Buster, as much as I've had some struggles this year in the NHL, the one thing I'm hanging on to right now is I have a Dallas Stars future. Tell me you think they can get the job done in this series.
You have a Dallas Stars future for the Cup or to win the West?
Cup.
Well, I actually wrote in a write-up today that I believe that they're the team to beat for the Stanley Cup myself. So I'm with you, brother, on that. I've always thought Dallas was. I sat on here last Tuesday and said that they need to play. Made them my best bet against Minnesota, where a lot of people thought Minnesota. Probably a lot of people thought that was a bad play on my part, but I really think Dallas has everything that you need to win the Stanley Cup, and it starts with Ottinger, obviously. But I could actually sit here and just say the exact same thing about what I said about the Florida-Toronto game, and then just insert Toronto with Dallas. Again, super, super tough spot for Seattle for game one. I do believe Seattle will give them a series. I think Dallas, though, is just a better team. And again, Seattle, I tell you, they have been playing great hockey. That was a great upset. And truthfully, if any watch that series, Seattle actually deserved that. It wasn't that, like a lot of series that actually, in the bubble when our Montreal Canadiens were advancing, we were getting a lot of good goaltending. Although Seattle did get good goaltending, those guys have been playing very good hockey. I just think Dallas is a step better than what Seattle has to offer here. This first game, again, I really like Dallas first period. I like Dallas in regulation here. And I think the big reason, too, I always go back to what happened the last time out. Well, here's Seattle winning, upsetting the Stanley Cup champions, their first playoff series win in franchise history. On and on and on we can go. All the big things for Seattle. Now, 48 hours later, you got to play in Dallas, a very, very tough place to win a hockey game. Maybe not so much this year, but in general, usually is. And I think that's another thing I'd like to mention. I actually believe you're going to start seeing more of these home teams win some games as we move forward. It's been like the road team winning steady, in the playoffs so far. But I do like to see I think the home teams, you'll see a little bit more of the home teams win. But as for Seattle, now they get all that. They're, fat and sassy, or fat and happy, whatever you want to call them. And, there's another thing. They played in Denver. And I know we always talk about Vegas, where, the team after a game in Vegas, how they may have the Vegas flu or whatever. You know what? We don't. I enter in my handicap sometimes, especially on if they're playing their third game in 4 nights or 4th and 6th or stuff like that. But we don't talk about the altitude in Denver as often. I think that might hurt them here. The way the Seattle plays, 48 hours come to Dallas, and now they have to play a very good Dallas club. As for the total, I guess, if you look at, again, going back to regular season, they all played, every game went over, and over easily, this 5.5. I don't know if that's going to happen today. I really would say that if there's, say if you're just betting, I know there's shot and goal props and goaltender props and all that other stuff, which I've been partaking a little bit in the shot on goal props because I think that's the future of the NHL to make some money. But if you're just playing the totals and the sides, I think this total is a total pass. It's the worst total to have to try to bet. So I will pass that. But what I will do, I will take Dallas first period. I will take Dallas in regulation. I think Dallas gets to start the win in this one right off the bat, just because it's just a really, really bad spot for these two road teams tonight.
Well, it is really advantageous looking at kind of what those home teams were able to do in their series versus really what the away teams were able to do. Let's be honest here. both these away teams tonight on tap are riding some major highs in a couple different ways. It's a matter of if they're going to crash and they came down, or if they're still riding it. I mean, Carm, your thoughts about the St. Louis Blues? They didn't really come down at all, and same thing with Seattle. It's very similar for Florida, but can they sustain what they were able to do against Colorado? And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I truly believe Dallas has more weapons right now than Colorado had to offer. Carm, would you agree with me on that?
Yes, absolutely. Listen, Dallas played. That series against Minnesota was a good one. You can say what you want about Minnesota. There's some talented players there, but Dallas just got better as that series wore on. Everyone just seems to be playing great on that team. So it bodes well for your futures if you think they're going to get by the Seattle Kraken and then face the winner of the Vegas Edmonton one. We might go mano a mano on that one because I've got the Oilers at 15-1 to win the cup at the beginning of the year. Them and Florida, so I'd be cheering for a Florida Edmonton Stanley Cup final, but I don't think that's going to happen. But in this game, Andrew, I'm not worried about things like altitude. These are players. These guys have done it all season long. They're making trips to Colorado, and after I don't put too much stock anymore into that Vegas flu one. I think it was good a couple of years ago. Not such a great profitable angle this past season. But and then as you look at it, and some people might think, okay, well, Seattle's coming off a 7-game series. Dallas has been resting. Dallas has had 3 days off before tonight's game. That's all they've had off. Their series finished on the 28th, and they've had 3 off days. That is not one where you're worried about a team that swept another team and has had 5 or 6 days off before they play a game. These guys are on the ice. These guys are still skating. They're in the gym. I'm not worried whatsoever about them starting flat. When you look at this game, all 3 games between these two teams went over the total during the regular season. And this is why I think you have to throw out the stats of what happens during the regular season, because this game looks like a dead under. Seattle's way of winning this game tonight, or keep staying in the game, or even trying to win this series, is to do the exact same thing they did against the Colorado Avalanche, and they did it successfully, which was eliminate the first line, turn this into whose second line, whose third line is better, grind out games, and all those games, every game, with the exception of that 6-4 game in Game 3, I think it was an under in that series. 6 of 7 games in that series stayed under the total. All 3 games during the regular season stayed under the total. That was an under bettor's dream. Seattle's coming in here. They know that Minnesota has more offensive tools than they do. They know that Dallas is likely a better team than them. But their way to winning this game, Andrew, is to grind out a 2-1 or 3-1 or a 3-2 type of victory like they did against the Colorado Avalanche. This total started at this opened at 5.5 plus 115 to the over. It is now 5.5 minus 125 to the under. And that's telling you that the money is coming in on the under, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. Is there a bounce tonight for the Kraken after that upset win over the Avalanche? Very likely, it could be. I would think both home teams are the right plays tonight in playoffs in which road teams have been dominating, but we might see that regression hit in where we start to see a lot of home teams now starting to pick up the wins. And sort of even that number out a little bit. I think Minnesota's the right play here, but I think the better play is to take the under.
And I think that until it doesn't work for them, that is what Seattle is going to try and do, is absolutely smother the Dallas Stars as much as they can. We'll see a goaltender battle between Ottinger and Grubauer. I mean, how great was Grubauer in round 1? He looked calm. He looked relaxed. He looked like he was able to see everything. His angles were perfect. And, really, you look at these rosters and, anybody would tell you that, lines 1 through 3, Dallas dominates. here's the problem to me is that I think that Dallas has the ability to win low scoring and high scoring games. You put Seattle in a game that the score is, let's say, 5-3. I think we all know who won that game. And I think that is where Seattle will struggle, is that last series against Minnesota, Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, Miro Heiskanen, those guys were performing every single night. I mean, they didn't even take one night off. Those guys got a point pretty much every single game in that series. So Seattle will not be able to take a night off defending those guys, or they're going to be in big trouble. I like Carmine's play there on under 5.5. I think that, of course, as the sports books are telling us, that's kind of where the money is as well. And I think we will see a defensive game between these two clubs out the gate. However, having said that, looking across the board, there are some interesting prop plays in this game, which I will have for clients later on tonight. But I got to say, looking at a couple guys, Dadonov and looking at Heiskanen to get some of these point props is really, really tempting. Wyatt Johnston has been so great for them on the second line. Quick point of note, Joe Pavelski is a game time decision. So before making props and before making your decisions on that stuff, guys, make sure you find out if Pavelski is in, and if he's in, who he's playing with, and if he's not in, who is taking his spot. All that stuff is things that should be considered when you're making your predictions and making your picks for tonight. So Pavelski, we all know he's a big leader on that team. He took a pretty rough hit in the first round. We'll see if he's back here for the second round in game one, Seattle versus Dallas. But I do like that under. I do like Dallas here as well. But I really do think we could see a defensive performance. Carmine, I don't want to take too much time because I know we have to wrap it up, but I wanted to ask your thoughts. You've been running so hot. I'm curious how you feel about the team total under for Seattle. I don't want to overcomplicate things, but to me, Dallas is the only team that worries me about bumping this over the total. If they win this one, let's say like 4-2, was there anything that you would take Seattle, or you would you'll stick with this full game?
So the Seattle one's at what, 2.5, right?
Yeah.
I could very well see this, Andrew. Like I said, I could very well see this being like a Dallas 3-2 or 3-1 victory. I just don't see. If you like Seattle, then I think you take the team total over, because they've got to score 3 goals to win tonight. I just don't see them winning a 2-1 game or a 2-0 game or a 1-0 game. This is a game in which, if you like Seattle, you take their team total over 2.5, take the plus money. But if you like Dallas, I think you take the Seattle team total under, and it's mainly because I like, as I said, I like the under in this game. I think it's going to be a great series. I just want to address one guy in the chat, because he made a good point. Yesterday, when we were talking about series prices, I said, if the Devils win, I think Carolina would be a slightly bigger favorite against the Devils. And the Devils opened up as a favorite in the series, which I can't believe. I wouldn't lay money on the Devils. Whether you're a fan or not, I'm not going to lay juice on a team that does not have home ice in a series to win the series. And that's what you have to do with the Devils. I think they're minus 130 to win the series. And maybe that's the manner in which they beat the New York Rangers, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do the same thing to the Carolina Hurricanes. So it remains to be seen how that series plays out. But I may actually take the Canes at plus money in that series. So those are my thoughts, at the very least, with that, and with regards to your team total.